You know, the internet feels like such a fundamental part of our lives, right? It's like this massive public square, a library, and a giant marketplace, all rolled into one. But here's a question. Is it actually open to everyone? That's really the core idea behind web accessibility, something that is so crucial, but honestly often gets overlooked. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover in this explainer. First, we'll nail down what we even mean by web accessibility. Then we'll get into the why it's so important. After that, we'll look at the foundational principles that guide all of this. And finally, we'll see what those principles actually look like in practice. So let me just ask you this right off the bat. Is the part of the web that you control, maybe it's your personal blog, your company's website, or even just your social media page, is it truly open to everyone? It's a simple question, but man, it opens up a whole world of really important things to think about.
All right, let's jump right into section 1 and get some of the basic ideas down. It all really starts with having a clear definition.
At its absolute core, this is what we're talking about. Web accessibility is the practice of making sure that people with disabilities can use the web. But the goal, as you can see here, is even bigger. It's that all people can perceive the information, understand how a site works, get around it, interact with everything, and even contribute back. Now, if you spend any time at all on this topic, you are going to see this term A11Y. It looks kind of like code, but it's really just a shorthand called a numenerum. It's simple, really. You take the first letter, A, the last letter, Y, and then you just count the 11 letters that are in between. And boom, you get A11Y. And yeah, the irony is not lost on anyone. It's a running joke in the community that the word A1E isn't very accessible itself until someone explains it to you. So that begs the question. If it's kind of confusing, why do people even use it? Well, it really boils down to two very practical reasons. First, on social media where every character counts, saving 9 characters is actually a pretty big deal. And second, think about it. The word accessibility can mean a lot of things, like wheelchair ramps. If you search for A11Y, you cut through all that noise and get results specifically about web accessibility. Okay, so we know what it is. But now let's get to the big question. Why? Why does this really truly matter? Well, it turns out the argument for accessibility is incredibly strong. And it pretty much rests on 3 main pillars.
And here they are. It's a human right, it's good for business, and more, it's actually required by law. Let's just quickly break each of those down. First, and this is the big one, this is about equality. The United Nations itself officially defines access to information and technology, like the web, as a basic human right. So if you deny access, you're essentially cutting people off from participating in so much of modern life. And here's what's so great. The right thing to do is also the smart thing to do for business. An accessible website is just a better designed website, period. It improves the experience for everybody, not just users with disabilities. That means you get a wider audience, more customers. I mean, why would any business ever want to turn customers away? And finally, you've got the legal side. All over the world, governments are passing laws to enforce digital accessibility. There have been major lawsuits against big companies for having websites people couldn't use. So building this way from the start isn't just good practice, it's also protecting yourself from some very real legal and financial risk down the road. Okay, so the why is pretty compelling, right? But how? How do you actually do it? Well, thankfully, it's not just some vague idea. There's a real, internationally recognized standard with a set of principles that guide the way. That standard is called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or just WCAG for short. It's put together by the W3C, which is basically the main standards organization for the whole internet. You can think of WCAG as the official rulebook for making the web work for everyone. And the best part is, this whole giant guide is built on just 4 core principles, and they form this really handy acronym, POUR. So for a website to be accessible, it has to be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So what on earth do those words actually mean? Let's get into our final section and break down each one of these principles with some real-world examples. This is where all that theory turns into action. First up, P is for perceivable. This just means that users have to be able to perceive the information you're presenting. So if someone can't see something or hear something, they need another way to get that same information. A classic example is adding descriptive alt text to an image. That allows a screen reader to describe the picture to someone who's blind. Or adding captions to a video so someone who's deaf can understand it.
or making sure color isn't the only way you show something's important, which helps users with color blindness. Next up, O is for operable. This means people have to actually be able to operate the website. You know, if a site requires a mouse to click on things, what about someone who can only use a keyboard? The whole thing has to be usable by everyone. So in practice, this means making sure you can get to every single button and link just using the tab key on a keyboard. It means your video players need obvious play and pause buttons, and it means not having those really fast timeouts on forms that can be frustrating for anyone who needs a little more time.
Okay, third one. U is for understandable. This one's all about clarity. The information and how the site works just can't be confusing. Bottom line, it has to make sense.
And this is where you really see how making things accessible helps literally everyone. Writing in plain, simple language is good for all your readers. Having a predictable navigation menu makes the site easier for anyone to use. And instead of just a generic error message, telling someone exactly what's wrong, like, please enter a valid email, is just better for everybody. And our final principle, R, is for robust. Think of this one as future-proofing your work. Your content has to work not just with today's browsers and technologies, but with the ones that are coming tomorrow. It's about building things the right way so they last. So that's the whirlwind tour of that what, the why, and the how of web accessibility. It is a huge topic for sure, but it really does start with small steps, which kind of brings us full circle. So I'll leave you with this question. What's one single thing you can do? Maybe adding alt text to one image or captioning one video to make your little corner of the web just a bit more open to everyone.